I have been fired 5 times, and we're gonna talk about it today. But God is trying to teach me something. I still don't exactly know what that is. I'm 37, so in 2010 I graduated from college. I studied English, and I decided, okay, I know I have to get a job. So I worked my first job ever out of college, service rep for an e-commerce company that was growing. It's actually now quite big, but it's not Amazon. But I ended up working there, and then I decided after 8 months, I don't want to do this anymore. Got a position as a recruiting coordinator. It was a contract position, and so I ended up working there. And then it was supposed to be like a 6 month position, to start off with. And then at some point, I don't even remember, I think it was only a few months in, my manager left, and so new management came in. And the new manager, we didn't see eye to eye. I was also a 23-year-old kid, basically, and I took everything super personally. And so, long story short, after just a few months, they let me go. And so, I wouldn't say I was fired, I guess, technically from that position, but it still hurt. I think the hardest part was the fact that I expected, right? I just assumed I would get some good job, and I never really paid attention to it in college. I never paid attention to what might I be good at. After that time that I lost that first job, I eventually found work as an administrative assistant for a healthcare provider company. I ended up staying there for about 3 years. But again, I was pretty young at the time. I was 23 when I first got hired. I basically just started to get bored. But instead of, again, thinking, okay, what am I good at? How can I leverage that? How can I lean into that? And not only that, but how can I work as if I am working for the Lord? I decided to just kind of not give it my all. And so I made a lot of mistakes. I just kind of checked out, and I didn't work hard there. When I met my husband, we got married. After about 3 years, they actually gave me one of those PIPs, Performance Improvement Plan, which just basically means we're gonna let you go. And so they let me go. The time frame that I'd been working at this company, I did start a health and fitness blog, so like a healthy living blog, and it was starting to gain some traction. I had some followers from it. I ended up applying to a job at a really small digital marketing agency doing social media because I thought that would be so cool. I wanted to be cool and working social media. And I worked from the time that I left that first job to the time that I started this new job. I think it was not even a week. So I started this new job, and I kind of signed up without even discussing things fully with my husband at the time, because I just thought he would want me to have a job, right? Long story short, they fired me after 3 weeks, claiming that there were wasn't enough clientele, which may or may not have been true. I don't know. I found out I was pregnant with my oldest a week after I lost that. That was job number 3 that I lost. So that was fun. We ended up moving from the city to the town where we live in now, as a temporary job, and worked there from the time I was 20 weeks pregnant until my due date, actually. And I didn't expect that there would be, again, I just assumed that things would fall into place. I did not understand the reality of having a baby for the first time. I am an only child. I didn't grow up with any kids around me, and so I literally had no idea what I was doing. Actually, I applied to work as a social media manager type thing at a local business. And it was my first experience with realizing the imposter syndrome that kind of plagued me a lot. There was no training, no kind of this is what we expect. And I've realized that if I am going to be in a job like that, I do need to have that. But I didn't understand that at the time. I didn't understand that I appreciated structure and communication and all those things. I had no idea. So after a month, they fired me too. Which kind of spoke to my biggest fears of like, you're a disappointment. So that's kind of all I felt. That was a really, really hard time for me. My daughter was 8 months old at the time, and I felt like a failure, just a big failure. And that was in February of 2017. I hadn't prayed about this job when I took it. I just applied because it looked so good. It seemed so promising. And I didn't understand that, you know, when you do things, it's a very good idea to pray through them first. So after that, I was just like, I'm done working. I can't bring anything to the table. No one likes me. I'm not a good worker. I have no work ethic. And so I just kind of gave up. But it was incredibly stressful financially. My husband and I were struggling because of it. And so I eventually, in September maybe, I found a job at a local credit union. I decided to apply for a job there part-time because working full-time just didn't and still does not make sense financially. Got this job, and I will say that out of all the jobs I've ever had, this was the one that gave me the most purpose and was the most positive experience. I worked there for 5 years, almost 5 years. It's taken me literally until I'm nearly 40 years old to understand that I really, really, really need to feel like I'm helping people in order to get any kind of satisfaction out of anything, basically. And I didn't know that. So it took me way too long. I'm still kind of figuring out how that whole thing works. But eventually, I ended up working along, as I did that, as a content writer, like a blogger, writing blogs for a local digital marketing agency, because this whole time I really wanted to be able to stay home with my children and still bring in some. By the time this last job comes up, I definitely have a much stronger faith, a much stronger understanding theologically of who God is, and you know, my part in that, I guess. There were things that were changing at the job that I really liked, and I was also going through an incredibly difficult time emotionally. I ended up getting a remote full-time position writing content for them. And so, long story short, I thought this was the best thing ever. I didn't even have to apply because they knew me, so I just reached out saying, "Hi, do you have any full-time positions? I'm interested." And I got the job, like literally the next day. I got a job offer. And you know when you have like that little inkling that's like, I don't know if it's a good idea. That's what I had, but I completely plowed ahead because I thought, no, this is gonna be great. It's gonna be great. But I felt like I couldn't do a good job as a mom or as an employee, so I was really stressed out all the time. I now had my daughter, my son, as I had my son when I was at the other company, and then I found out I was pregnant with my daughter now, my baby, with all the hormones and everything. It was bad. It was really bad, and I had some really kind friends kind of intervene, and my husband as well, and amazingly the Lord spared me from a lot of what could have been really bad things. So I went on medication and, you know, started to address those things, and so it did get better pretty drastically, which was great, and I'm very, very thankful for that. After I had worked some time there, I was about 20 weeks pregnant, I get the call that my performance hadn't been up to par, and that they were letting me go. So when it happened, I could not believe that I just lost my 5th job. And out of 15 years, I've only had one job where I felt like I liked and that I did well. And at the same time with all this, I did really want to stay at home with my kids because I really value being their mother and investing in them. And I think it's important that kids be with their children. kids be with their parents and their mom especially before the age of 3. And so I had come to that conviction, but I didn't know how to kind of do it because we really relied on my income. And so when I got fired again, it was an answer in a lot of ways to prayer, but also just okay, now. So now I've been at home literally since then, and it's actually been, well, this year it'll be 2 years, starting in April. I still have this sense of shame about it. I know there's a whole debate as to whether Christian women should only be stay-at-home moms, or can they work, can they not work, can they work part-time as long as their house isn't getting destroyed in the process, all those things. And I don't necessarily want to get into that debate in this video, but I will say that at 37, I don't have any semblance of knowing what I'm supposed to do with my life. So now I've been at home literally since then, and it's actually been, well, this year it'll be 2 years, starting in April. And it's funny because I still have this sense of shame about it. I know there's a whole debate as to whether Christian women should only be stay-at-home moms, or can they work, can they not work, can they work part-time as long as their house isn't getting destroyed in the process, all those things. And I don't necessarily want to get into that debate in this video, but I will say that at 37, I don't have any semblance of knowing what I'm supposed to do with my life. But God has consistently shown that He has been there and understands, and even has blessed me despite and through those circumstances. I don't know if you've ever had that kind of feeling where you feel like, what is going on? Why is this happening to me again? And I think one of the hardest things for me is realizing that I just did not seek His face for all those experiences. I had and did my own thing, and it makes me think of the Judges. You know, the popular refrain in Judges, everyone did what was right in their own eyes. And yeah, that's what I did now. But I also am looking to create more income and bring in some financial security to my family. You know, and it's hard to know what God wants. But I don't want to be trying to do things according to what I think is right. But I'm really struggling even now to know how to do it differently. So that's my story of how I lost 5 jobs, how I got fired 5 times. And if you've had a similar experience, please comment them below. I'd love to hear about them, and maybe we can all learn something together.